Everyone, welcome to this session for the Writing Center. I'm Michelle Gannon. I run the Writing Center. I want to encourage you to come to the Writing Center with drafts of your personal statements or to get help on revising them. And we do that a lot. This summer I did a lot, and we can be very helpful in that regard. On the tables, you will see handouts around. If you need one, please raise your hands. The lovely salmon, I guess you would call it, handout in gold. The salmon one has the Writing Center's contact information, our hours this semester, answers to commonly asked questions, and on the backside, instructions for scheduling an appointment online, which for an on-campus appointment, which look more difficult than it really is. So you can also just email us and indicate what days and times you're available for an appointment, and we will schedule the appointment for you most happily. The Gold Sheet has our list of workshops for the semester. We're usually in here every Wednesday at 7, and there are just a couple of exceptions. But you may be interested in some of these that are coming up: the power of synthesis, peer review, MLA and APA documentation workshops, integrating sources and avoiding plagiarism on the backside. Writing a literature review may be of special interest to some of you. That's on October 25th. That's a 90-minute workshop with 3 faculty from different disciplines. There's a lab reports workshop, revision strategies you may find of special interest. It's a really wonderful workshop on November 8th. And how to write a portfolio introduction. And then there's a write-in, which is kind of a unique event. The write-in is 4 hours. You can come anytime during that 4 hours from 7 to 11 and get help with writing, or you could sit at a table and just write if you choose. And we'll have free food and drink on hand, as well as several writing consultants to assist you in this room. The workshop that is integrating sources and avoiding plagiarism at the top, notice that's the only workshop that's on a Thursday. So just to take note of that. So we've got a really important topic tonight, writing a personal statement. And Professor Skip Willman has graciously volunteered to lead this workshop for us. So please, I don't know if I need to say it to this group. I usually say to first years, turn off electronic devices that might distract you or the others around you, and give the presenter your complete attention. And we'll distribute comment cards at the end of the workshop so that you can also put down an instructor's name if you want the instructor notified that you were here, but also we want your comments, of course. So without further ado.
Hello, folks. I'm Skip Willman. I am an associate professor in the English department, and I am the coordinator of graduate studies. So part of my job is to read personal statements from every MA and prospective PhD student who applies to USD in the English department. As a result, I've had lots of experience reading personal statements, from the brilliant to the boring and the really horrific. And we're going to give you a little taste tonight of the full gamut. Good personal statements or good paragraphs in personal statements, and things that you should probably try to avoid. So that's what we have planned for you today: some strategies, things to think about, and definitions of what a personal statement actually is. Now, in the past, this workshop has typically been held towards the end of the first semester in the fall. I think the thinking behind that was that we needed to get those 101 students, get them the workshops that they need. So this year, having this at this point in time is great, because if you are applying for a graduate or professional school next year, you know the deadlines are coming up in November, December, and January, which means you have to get started writing these personal statements now. This is not something that you can do the night before, right? How many of you, by the way, are applying to a professional or graduate school for next year? Okay, that's awesome. I saw one of my freshman students over here, and I was like, I know she's not applying to a graduate school next year, but great that she's here. The second thing that I would encourage you to do is that Google is your friend, and that there is a good chance that the professional school or the graduate school you're applying to has kind of guidelines to how to write a personal statement. I know I've checked out UCLA, I checked out Berkeley today, I checked out Duke University. These are high-powered schools that are all attempting to throw out there on the net information for you. And a lot of the information I'm going to be presenting tonight I actually stole from these places, so I'm attributing my sources right away. So at any rate, it doesn't hurt to get the workshop tonight, but also do your own research on what your specific program requires you to do in terms of a statement of purpose or personal statement, because depending on your discipline, it might be very different. Okay, so your responsibility is to be aware of what are the conventions within your discipline. So, what is a statement of purpose? The statement of purpose is perhaps the most important and most challenging element of your application packet. This letter needs to reflect who you are and why you would be an asset to the program you are applying to. It needs to make you stand out from the hundreds of other applicants and yet stay within the genre-based expectations of a statement of purpose. This statement of purpose is also a job that, or kind of a task, a writing task, that you're going to have to do over and over again when you start applying for jobs. It's going to be a very similar kind of task at hand. So this is not a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You learn it now, you will have those skills for later on when you start applying for jobs and writing letters for those. So is a statement of purpose like a college admissions personal statement? The answer is no. The statement of purpose has different genre-based expectations. The college admissions personal statement highlights features that distinguish you as a person, that demonstrates that you are more than your test scores. The audience is going to be very different for college admissions than for a personal statement or a professional statement. Who's going to be reading it is going to be the crucial difference. Admissions staff are going to be reading it. They're good people, but they're generalists. They're not specialists in your field or what your proposed field is going to be. So you are selling them on something that they can appreciate, which is that you're a unique individual and deserve to be in this school. Problem is, when you get to graduate and professional school, you're going to be talking to faculty members. Faculty members who want to know what your qualifications are. Not that you were, president of student council your senior year. So the graduate or professional school statement of purpose highlights your undergraduate achievements, experiences, and interests that prepare you for graduate or professional school. So why are these things important? A lot of you are probably asking, dude, I take my law school tests or I take the MCATs, I am a number, whatever that number is. The problem is that every time someone, there are going to be a lot of people with your same test scores. So why should they take you? At this point, this becomes kind of important to differentiate you, distinguish you from the rest of the pack. The other thing is that a good statement of purpose may not necessarily get you into a program, but a poorly written one could cause the committee to reject your application. One of the things that I routinely do is I'm on job committees. And job committees are very much like applications to graduate school or professional school. You get a lot of them. What you are looking for in the first round are reasons to ditch people. In the English department, if you start making grammatical errors for an English department where you are going to be teaching writing, boom, your paper is gone. And that is that kind of first bar that you have to clear. So you don't want to screw this up. And we're going to show ways in which people have indeed screwed up their personal statement. So there are certain situations in which a statement of purpose is really important. And that might include cases of where you have a low grade in one or two of your courses. People are going to look askance at that. They're going to say, what happened here? Why? And you hopefully have a very good excuse for that you can kind of say without it being a total excuse. Like, dude, the dog ate my paper. I got an F. As I said, breaking a tie with other applicants that have similar test scores, and or getting into programs in which standardized test scores are weighted significantly less than demonstrating one's professional interests and abilities. For instance, our English department, we require people to take GREs for the master's program. It's kind of important, but not really. What we are more interested in is, can the people actually do the work? What is their writing sample like? So you have to know within your discipline, what are people going to weigh the most? If you are going to med school, if you are going to law school, then yeah, those tests are important. But other things are going to weigh differently in different programs. So looking at USD and the graduate school here, this is what we require. We require a statement of purpose. That's usually the first thing that we read. An official transcript, so all your grades are going to be there. We're going to see that. 3 letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are extremely important. You, as a student, need to cultivate relationships with faculty members who know your work and who can talk about it. There are official test scores, and for us in the English department, writing samples. For creative writers, they have to submit both a critical paper on some novel or a poem, and then creative writers also submit their creative writing, whether it's poetry, fiction, what have you. And different programs have different other requirements. So the paradox of a personal statement is that it's about you, and yet it's not really about you. It is about convincing your readers, your audience, that you will make a good addition to their program, department, or institution. Again, it's like going on I don't want to say it's like going on a dating site, but it's kind of like going on a dating site. You do have to kind of cultivate the best version of yourself that appeals to that prospective audience and craft your profile accordingly. And your profile on a dating site might be very different than your Facebook profile, which might be very different than, and let's hope it's very different than your professional school profile. So what makes an effective personal statement? Guidelines for personal statement in many ways line up with guidelines for good writing. So if, for instance, you're in Honors 110 this semester, pay attention. If you're in English 101 or an advanced writing course, pay attention because good writing counts. So you need to communicate clearly. You need to organize your thoughts logically. You need to follow rules of grammar and syntax. And this is the easiest thing. You've got spell check. You've got grammar check. If you screw up your grammar or syntax, you're basically saying to whoever's reading this, your faculty audience, I don't give a shit. Right? This is the important document. You labor over this a little bit. You make sure, you get different eyes on it to make sure that it is correct. Because you don't want people correcting your grammar. You want them digesting the content. And as faculty members, what do? We do the same thing. Like we see syntax and grammatical errors, and we lose the content in making all of these kinds of corrections. You don't want to do that. You want to avoid cliches and include a mix of abstract and concrete images and ideas. And I would stress that you want to be as detailed as possible. And finally, as I said before, remember what you learned in composition class regarding structures of having topic sentences, maybe even a thesis statement. I know, about yourself, a thesis statement. How do you boil it down to one thing? Oh my God, I don't know. But that's for you to figure out about what is your big selling point for this program. That's your thesis statement. As I said, the personal statement is not only important for its content, but its form. It is a writing sample as well as a personal statement. The ability to communicate effectively in writing is important for any field. And this goes for the sciences too. So don't think if you're in the sciences that, dude, I don't have to write. I just have to like crunch numbers, do my little investigation and experiment, and I'm good to go. No, you need to be able to communicate what you are doing. Because when you go to graduate school, what are you scientists doing? You're applying for grants. And when you are applying for grants, you are communicating sometimes with people who speak your specialized languages, sometimes not. I sit on grant committees all the time. I'm evaluating chemistry, physics, biology. I don't know crap about many of those things, although I was a physics major, double major with English in college. But it was, quite a while ago, so I've forgotten everything. But good writing is important regardless of your discipline. And of course, if you're in the humanities, that's what it's all about. And good writing relies on understanding your audience, the occasion, the purpose, and the tone. So I want to kind of break it down, and let's look at it. So for instance, here's from the USD Graduate School, how they are defining the statement of purpose. Applicants are encouraged to provide information about their reason for pursuing graduate studies, interest in research or creative activity relevant to their proposed graduate program, and goals for the future. Not all graduate programs require a formal statement of purpose and instead require supplemental information. If the program does not have a statement of purpose requirement, the applicant should submit a general goal statement as to why he or she wants to attend graduate school. Graduate school here at USD speak very generally because they want to kind of control the application process for everybody. For English, for biology, for history, for psychology, for all of these various programs that have graduate programs. So this statement of purpose is pretty nebulous. So what you need to do is do more research. You need to dig into the particular department that you are interested in to kind of figure out a little bit more about what that statement of purpose should look like. So that's the kind of occasion. What is your audience? So like most writing projects, you have to know your audience. Who will be reading this? And put yourself in their position. What do they care about? I know when I'm looking at applicants, what I am looking for is someone who I can put in, say, a freshman composition classroom and teach freshman composition. If that writing sample seems a little sophomoric, juvenile, immature, I'm not going to put that person on there, regardless of how brilliant they may be, regardless of how funny they might be. I'm thinking they're going to be a teacher, they're going to be representing this department. They have to know their stuff, and they have to be able to recognize what is appropriate. So as I've said before, you have to learn about the school or program to which you are applying. And this is important. Now, you are all you're specialists now. As you develop your college education, you're specialists in your field. You've had a bunch of biology courses. You've had a bunch of English courses or what have you. You know what the key ideas, phrases, and conventions are in the various disciplines. If you've had Jake Kirby, you know all about frogs, right? You know all about frogs and amphibians. So you need to be able to demonstrate that kind of knowledge. And what are the issues? What are people studying that has to do with frogs? I don't know. I am in English. But if you're in biology, you've worked with Jake, that's what you need to be thinking about. So typically your application materials will be read by a committee of graduate faculty. So it's not just one person, it's usually a couple people. For our department, we have 2 people who read every MA application. That is the coordinator of graduate studies, myself, and the chair of the department. We make the decisions. Sometimes we consult a creative writer if it is a creative writer. For PhD students, we get more eyes on. We have a graduate studies committee consisting of 4 faculty members. Everybody gets on, reads every application, and ranks the candidates. So you got 4 people that are reading it. Again, this is not a college application. You do not have to demonstrate how well-rounded you are. The task is to persuade these specialists that you are prepared for the rigors of their specific program. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is the context, where that statement sits. You have other application materials. For instance, the English department application consists of an application form, a transcript, 3 letters of recommendation, a writing sample, and a statement of purpose. You need to comprehend what is the relationship of all of these materials. Are there things within, say, my resume or within my transcript that I want to highlight? Are there things that don't show up that I need there to be? Are my letter writers going to talk about specific things? Lab experience, maybe a U-Discover project that I was doing. Make sure that the letter or that the statement of purpose works in conjunction with all of these other materials. And it is your job to a certain extent, educate your letter writers about what you want them to talk about. Now, you're not going to dictate the letter to them and say, Skip Woolman is a brilliant literary critic. You know, that's not what you were going to necessarily say, but you were going to say to them, hey, you know, I think it's important for professional school or graduate school that you talk about my experience in your lab, my mentorship, my work, say, in the writing center. These are things that you can kind of drop hints and kind of explain. Can you talk about this? And then you can develop it, and then it will be reinforced by what's going on in the letter of recommendation from your faculty members. And you can get faculty, or you can get letter writers and faculty members to write about different aspects of your experience here at USD and of your work. So be thinking of how everything fits together, right? Frequently, graduate students receive support by working as teaching assistants, so keep this in mind as you formulate your statement. These programs are looking for teachers and research assistants. So if you're in the sciences, if you have conducted any undergraduate research, gotten a mini grant, any of that stuff, highlight it. That's great. If you have worked at the Writing Center, you have that formative kind of experience as a mentor or a teacher, put it down. That's important. As I said, research is important. Understanding your audience requires you to go in and examine what the program is about, what are its specialties, etc. So visit the program's website that you're interested in, investigate. If they have any literature, you need to request it and take a look at it. What are they attempting to sell you? Because what they're attempting to sell you should be kind of, to a certain extent, what you should be selling yourself to them about. It's not a very good kind of sentence construction there, but I think you get what I'm saying. And again, you want to look for specializations of the program. You do not want to go to programs that have nothing to do with what you are selling in that letter and what your background is. You need to figure this out. So even before you write your statement of purpose, you need to know that this program is going to be a good fit for you. So for instance, today, I got a letter of inquiry or an email from a person who wanted to know if our PhD program allowed people to, or provided training in writing genre fiction, which in our field is kind of code word for fantasy, right? People want to be the next Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or whatever. And I kind of had to say, we don't exactly do that. That would not be a good fit. But the point is that this person went out, emailed, and asked if this was something that would be worthwhile. You're going to have, this is part of your process for graduate or professional schools to do that advanced legwork to make sure that it's even viable. Because you don't want to spend all this time tailoring a statement of purpose and application, spending this $35, $70, $120 to send off this application that they're going to say, dude, this person just doesn't fit. They work on frogs. We're salamanders here. Amphibians, but wrong amphibian, right? You also should take a look at who are the key faculty members in the department, whose research interests align with your own. Consider including some of this information in your letter. It is a good way to indicate not just that you know what the program is, but that you've done your research. You are a professional, at least in being a student, if nothing else. So you have to do that. Plus, it is always flattering when someone says, "Oh yes, I eagerly look forward to working with Skip Willman." You know, it's kind of a, head gets a little bit bigger each time we get somebody saying that. It's not bad to butter people up if you do it subtly. I'm just saying. Be subtle about it. Don't pour it on. So the occasion then, what is the relationship between you and the program? How would you fit in? How would the program help you? What made you choose this program? What would you bring to it? These are some of the things that you should consider. This is available, right, Michelle? This PowerPoint is going to be available for public consumption.
It's been recorded, so the recording will be available.
Okay, so you don't have to frantically write everything down here. So personal statements should encourage some introspection. So ask yourself some questions. Why do you want to do this? What really motivates you to succeed? What are your strengths and weaknesses? These are things that you're going to have to contemplate before you begin. Your purpose is simple. You want to be admitted. But what motivates them to do so? Not your desire to be there. Everybody wants to be there, right? That's why they're applying. So why are they going to want you in that program? What you want to kind of provide without doing a total laundry list is contemplate what are your greatest hits. What can you feature, right? Did you do an honors thesis? This demonstrates that you can conduct research. That's what you're going to be doing in graduate school. Do you have lab work? Did you do lab work? Shows that you already have relevant experience doing stuff that you're going to be doing in graduate or professional school. Perhaps you should talk about your capstone papers or your research. This is the culmination of your work as a mentor or in a major. So you should be thinking, maybe I can sell this. Maybe this is something that I should talk about. Mentoring, we talked about that. Did you work at a math lab? Did you work in a writing center? This translates into teaching experience. You discover projects or undergraduate research mini grants. These are great. Again, this is like you're already doing this stuff that graduate students do and that professionals in their field do. And of course, if you have presented at IdeaFest or other conferences, this is great. Right? This is the stuff you should be thinking about doing to prepare yourself for graduate school and stuff you might want to talk about. The tone should follow logically from a clear understanding of the desired qualities. You need to be professional, serious, curious, well-informed, and organized. You need to maintain your balance. You need to be serious, but not emotionless. Right? We don't want HAL 9000 or a computer or a replicant or any of that kind of stuff. What I will say is that there's no one way to write a personal statement. And I can lay down the law here about what makes good guidelines, and then there will be somebody who writes a letter completely violating every principle, and yet it works. Because there's something about that letter that just works and energizes the reader or the audience, hits the audience. Plus, you never know who's going to be reading this. We have, even in our department, we have people who are, very much by the book, straightforward, demonstrate your proficiency and professionalism. And then we have people who are, I don't want to say bleeding hearts, but they'll respond to a sob story. They'll respond to some kind of, obstacle overcome, right? Oh, this person deserves a chance because they've had such a sucky life. And we like to be nice to people. We are not unkind. But you're bringing together 4 faculty members for this PhD, and you don't know what's going to appeal to those people. So think of the best version of yourself and project that image. Also, use this statement to address any obvious questions that might arise from your application materials. Some of those things might be poor grades. Some of those things might be big gaps between, say, you finishing your undergraduate degree and then your application to graduate school. You might want to kind of say, well, maybe why did you wait? Why didn't you just go straight through? You know, and saying, you know, I wanted to go to Europe and experience life and do drugs. That's probably not what you should be putting down. It may be true, but that is not what you should be putting down as to why you took a couple years off after your undergraduate experience. The other thing you are going to need to do is that each statement of purpose needs to be tailored to the particular program so that you can talk about the faculty members, the department's strengths, their specializations, and how you align with those. It would be nice if you could write one letter that will work universally for 15 programs and then just send it out. That's not the case. You will tell maybe one big story about yourself, you will sell yourself, but then in that kind of end of the letter or the end of the statement, when you have to kind of start buttering up that program and demonstrating that you've done your research, it's going to be different. And that's another reason why you need to start earlier as opposed to later, because that will take time. You need to get that right. So what is this thing supposed to look like structure-wise? Maybe there's a hook in the opening. We're going to talk about one of the hooks from one of Michelle's former students. You need to describe your background, maybe describe classes or other experiences that were particularly important. Identify any important extracurricular or professional experiences. Discuss any potential questions or problems in your application. Present your ideas about your future. And then again, talk about the program and why you have chosen it. And something that we probably haven't mentioned, but we should probably mention, is that this has to happen basically in about 2 pages. 500 words, usually. Now, different programs specify different lengths. So you need to be aware of what the specific links are for the program that you are applying to, because some of them say, I want 1 page, 250, just cut to the chase, just the facts. And some people allow a little bit more flexibility. So, how do you not begin an essay? Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball from Soho down to Brighton. I must have played them all. Now, this is a lyric from The Who, from Pinball Wizard, but you don't want to quote music lyrics probably. But also this I was born and raised in, this kind of comprehensive life story. Yes, that is part of your story. But again, think about the audience. I don't really care about years 1 through 17. I care about years 18 to 22. When you're in college, when you're preparing to become a professional. It's not that we don't have experiences that are valuable and important, but odds are the most important experiences are going to be from 18 to 22. Ever since I was a young child, I have always loved books, music, young people, basket weaving, marine biology. These are things, you're applying to graduate school, obviously, you love them. And then this kind of, my name is Skip Willman. I'm applying for the prestigious program here at Duke University, in the English department. Thank you very much. That is also something that you want to avoid, right? You do have to have some panache with it. So let's take a minute and read this. This is from one of Michelle's students. This was the opening paragraph of their personal statement, and I want you to tell me what you think of this and if it works for you, and why it works or why it doesn't work. I should add that this person was applying to dental school. may be obvious to you, but let's just lay it all out on the table. So is this relevant material? Yes, no. Okay, it's relevant material. How so?
Talks about dental care in different situations, different countries.
Okay, so it's talking about dental care. It's talking about an experience that this person personally had, which is a rather unique experience. What were you going to say, sir?
I was going to say similar to that, it points out some of what people in the dental field do or what they might see in career.
Right. So there's a certain amount of professional language that is creeping in here. It is a professional experience. Even if this person was only observing, it is still that. And they're volunteering to go to Africa, right? That says something about the person without this person saying, yo, I volunteer for like all sorts of selfless things. I'm a really good liberal, right? That's not what this person is saying. They are saying in a very straightforward way, but in a way that is, it's kind of a humble brag. But I think it works, right? So that might be a good hook, because not many people have gone to Tanzania to work on dental stuff, right? So other common mistakes that you want to avoid, follow the instructions. If the guidelines specify a 500-word limit, then you should adhere to that limit. Because if you don't, they're thinking, yeah, they've applied to 12 different schools. They don't give a crap about this one or reading any of the information, so screw them. Avoid the laundry list. You want to contextualize the important greatest hits of your academic career. And you want to point to them. You don't want to list them all. Stay positive. This is something that we're going to see in a letter that I've adapted from somebody. Don't trash other schools, departments, or faculty members. You'll be joining a community of scholars and professionals. Collegiality counts. Now, it may be true that, you hate your rotten life and want to get out of South Dakota. That's why I'm going to California, right? That may be the truth. It is not something that is going to sell you to a California school necessarily. So you need to stay positive. And this is going to be crazy. Make sure to address your letter correctly. You will presumably apply to multiple schools and revise your letter for each school, so every reference to that school by name or location should be correct. We get job applications every year where they say, Dear University of South Dakota English Department, and at the end, they will say, and I would be happy to join the University of Utah, right? And you're just like, dude, come on, right? It's easy enough, right? Obviously, this person didn't care enough to check the details. Is that the kind of person we want on the faculty here? Is this the kind of graduate student we want who doesn't dot their I's and cross their T's? So take a look at this one and tell me what you think of this opening paragraph for revision. All right, what did you think of this one? If your friend gave you this, and I would encourage you all to share personal statements or statements of purpose with your friends, get some other eyes on this. This is very important. What would you say?
For me, it was kind of a snooze fest, or like at the statement of purpose, because this is the kind of thing I would like expect on a first date, maybe, and a very awkward one at that. Because, like you said earlier, we should not be hearing what they wanted to do in junior high.
Yes. So the relevant experience that they're talking about here begins a little too early. It is based in fantasy, right? Sigmund Freud even said that like the most turning off kind of thing you can say is talk about your fantasies to somebody. People, that is not good, right? People don't like to hear about that stuff. So, I mean, like, okay, this is about you. This may be the reason why you wanted to go to law school. But it is not the way to kind of say, I am prepared for law school and I am a good fit for your particular program, because odds are everybody else has some kind of story like this. You know, I watched Law and Order, I saw A Few Good Men, I really love Tom Cruise, you know, whatever it is. What else is wrong with this? Or right with this? There might be some things right with this.
Doesn't really appeal to the audience that's reading it. They're probably professors, and this person's supposed to be happy with that.
Yes. That is a problem. I do not believe I could be happy in academia conducting abstract research. Yeah. As a professor, as someone who conducts research, you know, yeah, I think that's a little bit of a slap in the face. It's like what you do isn't real. I want to do real stuff. What's real? And that's defending clients. What else? Anything else? Yeah.
I think on a positive note, they include that they double majored in political science and English, kind of varying their fields, but they don't really explain why.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Now we're getting into the background, the meat of what this is about. Like this is preparation for law school, and political theory or political science and literature, writing. That's great. But overall, this is not going to work. Again, it's a little too personal in that sense of talking about dreams and fantasies and watching TV. So this is kind of based on one that I actually got. So take a look at this one. All right, if Ronald Drumpf was your friend and you were trying not to screw him over, what would you tell him? Yeah.
Don't start with history was not always my first love.
Again, stay positive, right? Stay positive. History was not always my first love, and yet I want to go to history graduate school. It might be true. Again, this is probably someone who is feeling like, I'm going to confess. And they'll appreciate my honesty. You know, honesty's nice, but again, you're selling yourself on this. We want someone who's devoted to this program. Anything else? Yeah.
I would say that maybe the last two sentences might be like the good starting point or a better starting point since he says that he found some similarities between world and contemporary America.
Yeah. I mean, again, that is a good starting point possibly to talk about your interest, developing it in interesting ways. Anything else? Here's a sentence that I particularly like. In fact, I had no interest in history growing up, but that disinterest is probably due to the fact that I never had a decent history teacher who sparked my interest. Wrong on several levels, right? But what does that actually say? I mean, about you as an individual or about Ronald Drumpf?
Not self-motivated.
Exactly. not self-motivated. This is someone who you're going to constantly have to coddle and say, ooh, shiny object, go for it. This is an assignment, it'll be really fun. Coaxing them into something, right? That is not going to work. So, I mean, these are red flags all over the place about why we would toss this application away. This is also based on one that we got. So take a look at it. All right. What about this opening paragraph? Are there things that are valuable?
Well, this is not something that's valuable.
Okay.
It seems to me that it is praising literature more than it is praising the person who's applying.
Okay. So there is something, yeah, I mean, I think that is to a certain extent kind of true. In the praise of literature, though, are they demonstrating anything? I'll throw this to everybody, right? Okay. One, they're passionate about it. And it is backed up by concrete details. So I totally agree with you that this is not about their work. But again, this is an opening paragraph. Presumably, as you go on, this would develop into, here's work that I've done. And this paragraph gives a strong indication of where that work would go, which is at the intersection of English and psychology. What else would you say about this essay? Or paragraph, excuse me. Yeah.
Explain why they were a double major.
Okay. They explain why they were a double major, their background. That works. They're developing a sense of who they are professionally from 18 to 22 in their college education. I will note, since do we have any English majors here? I didn't think so. Louis Althusser is a big Marxist theorist and very important for the study of literature, so that by dropping in that name, you might think, name dropper, but it's also demonstrating that I've had certain training that prepares me for graduate school, because this is what many people actually learn in graduate school. This person already has some of this knowledge and is able to utilize these concepts effectively and correctly. So that's important. Okay. Body paragraphs now. So we've kind of talked about a hook, maybe what is your interest, how did you get into the field. Body paragraphs, you're going to have to develop your own kind of structure for what you want to talk about based upon your experience and background. But you're going to want to focus on concrete details like that last opening paragraph that we saw. Concrete details. What are the texts that got me motivated? Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Toni Morrison's Beloved. Things like that. Demonstrate your knowledge of the field. Drop in theorist names like Louis Althusser. Talk about significant interactions with specific faculty members. That might be one way. Yo, I worked with frogs with Jake Kirby. Now, you wouldn't want to say, dude, I worked with frogs with Jake Kirby. You would want to find a more professional way to say that. And you also want to demonstrate your knowledge of the institution to which you are applying. So again, this is returning to our dental school statement of purpose. This is a sample body paragraph. So take a look at this one and tell me what you think. What do you think of our future dentist of America's body paragraph here? Yes?
I think it's pretty well detailed. They have a lot of terminology that's probably very relevant in the dentistry field. And then it also gives a kind of subtle way of saying, you know, I'm super fascinated by this, but at the same time, like, I need a little bit more on a given level.
Did everyone over here hear what he said? Because I think it's important. Basically, two different things, right? One of them is lots of terminology that is dropped in here that is professional. This is the language that dentists speak, right? And second of all, it is also making a subtle shift from research into actual practice and being a real dentist as opposed to someone who's merely conducting research, but doing it in a way that says, I loathe research. You want to avoid that kind of thing. So it does two things very well. It pivots into that practical experience and that desire to become a practicing dentist in a good way. Yes?
I think in a sense, it kind of also sounds like you, I guess, trashing a little bit the program. Like, for example, when I get to the, I realize that I researched for a long, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then it says it lack an immediate relationship to the people I want to serve. So it kind of seems like he's saying the program is beneath me. I think would be maybe the expression I'm trying to use.
I mean, it's thin ice there, right? It's very dangerous to kind of say, I don't want to do this research and I want to do something else without saying something negative about why I want to do something else. But I mean, I think that there's room for interpretation. And obviously this person says, I don't want to be in a lab all day. I want to actually work on people's teeth, I think is what they're trying to convey and to serve the community. But yeah, there's a little ambiguity there that we could tighten that language up maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Right. That's actually what I got out of there. I'm like trashing the experience. He's just saying it's cool, but I want to do this instead.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean that pivot is kind of difficult to make, right? So you have to be careful and avoid, try to stay as positive as possible. Okay. So when we get to the close, conclusions are obviously very difficult. In your 101 courses, in your honors 110, maybe let's go back all the way to high school, you kind of, okay, the closing paragraph is 5-paragraph essay. I kind of restate what I've done throughout the entire paper. You don't want to do that. Here in academic writing, you want to kind of expand on the topic, explore the significance, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's not exactly what you need to do in a sample closing paragraph either. Because now you're kind of bringing it together, talking about how you fit, making the final case for how you fit within this program. So let's take a look at this one. Does this work?
Did they really not fill in the blank?
No, I'm just protecting the names of the innocent. Thoughts? I'll jump up at once. What do you say to this person? Yes?
It sounds like negative to me. I don't like the feedback that you're thinking like, wow, like he would make a good addition to our team. It's kind of like, he's gonna be that person that's kind of negative. It's not like exactly what he wants to do. I don't know.
And what gave you that impression? Can you point to specific details, please?
Just like the marketing buzzword, it's like a medium term. I don't know. I kind of thought it was throughout the whole paragraph, but
Yes. I mean, like, while I do look forward to teaching, which just has a big but right there, right? I mean, like it is saying, I don't really like teaching. I have no interest in training students for careers or making them better global citizens at all. Never say that. Never, ever say that, right? I mean, as an English professor in particular, that's what you're going to be doing is training students. So you have just said, I don't really want to do what the mission is. And critical thinking in a liberal arts university, that is what we sell ourselves on as English departments. So you are basically, it's just a marketing term. It doesn't mean squat. No, you don't want to do that. That is a mistake. So again, this is a really crappy closing statement. Again, the person thinks that I'm being honest, I'm being real, and that being real is going to be authentic, and they're going to love me because I'm being authentic. No. So this is kind of nuts and bolts. I think this is a fairly straightforward way in which workmanlike you can close. I feel strongly that the biomedical sciences program at UCSD will provide an ideal environment in which to continue my research training. The Department of Biomedical Sciences provides the expertise and resources necessary to engage in cutting-edge research, such as recent Project X. X is just a stand-in here. It is not. There's a real thing in the real letter. As someone with a particular interest in genome-centered approaches to biomedical science, I'm particularly excited about the opportunity to work with faculty such as Y. So there's a person here, a faculty member named, whose work on this particular field connects strongly with my own interest in Z. My educational background, intellectual curiosity, and work ethic will allow me to make a valuable contribution to the intellectual life of the department and the university as I work toward my long-term career goals. For these reasons, I'm enthusiastic about the possibility of continuing my research and education at UCSD, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to share my goals and qualifications. Now, you might look at this and say, this is not very flashy, but it does what it's supposed to do. What it does is it demonstrates that I know what this statement of purpose is supposed to do. I have done my research. I have the name of the institution. I know what your specializations are. I know faculty members. And I have made a case in this statement of purpose of why I should be there. And I'm going to reiterate that case. So to a certain extent, while this doesn't have Tanzania in it, it still works. Okay? And I think what you should get over is that not every paragraph is going to be this brilliantly written thing that is going to be, you know, like watching, you know, a Christopher Nolan movie. Sometimes being professional, saying what you need to say is enough for this kind of thing. So if you are in doubt, say what you need to say. Don't jump out on a limb and try to be flashy. That's not necessarily going to work for you. Okay, revision. Start early. That's why we're doing it now as opposed to December. Spell check and grammar check are your friends. Go through many drafts. Use the Writing Center. They can provide feedback for you. And get feedback from your faculty mentors. Your faculty mentors are going to be happy to speak with you and review any materials that you have, because when you get into good graduate schools, what do? We trumpet the fact that we have students who got into great graduate schools. That is something that we are very proud of, because we are proud of you as students when you accomplish great things. So we are eager to help you accomplish great things. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Erin is going around and distributing some handouts that you can take with you, and also comment cards. Please fill out the comment cards. So, and if you have questions, feel free to come up and ask Skip, or raise your hand now if anybody wants to talk further. Yes, there's a question over here. Could you grab, is there a mic at that table? And just press down on the button and speak into the mic so everybody can hear. Thanks.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you, in your letter, if you got a bad test score, what would you say to explain
Man, it's a tough kind of thing, but I mean, I think there is also, I'm trying to turn it around. Like, I realize that I got 4 test score, but some of the things you can talk about are, but my grades are good. It was a while since I took that. You know, I'm seeking improvement, and I will take the test again in a future date before admission, you know, and that you will forward those scores at an early convenience might be a good way to broach that subject. But I think you're kind of right, particularly if those test scores are very important for your professional school or graduate school. Other questions?
You did mention that this was available for public viewing. Where will that go?
There will be a recording link available for this workshop. I can post it on, do you have access to the online writing center in D2L? Probably not.
No.
Okay. I can send it out as an email. If you include your information on your comment card, then I can send that email. So.
That would work. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Actually, I have more of a comment instead of a question. I actually do want to say that I do appreciate this workshop just because I know that having a personal statement for something as big as grad school, for people who dream of going to grad school, I think it kind of gives it a little bit of, at least some kind of incentive to, okay, here's what I can just forget, and then let's try something different. So I appreciate you guys being a good source of information. So thank you.
Glad it was helpful.
I was going to say the example that Skip was showing from for dental school, that was a final draft of that paragraph that led into his experience in another country. And he originally had that story of going to another country just as a sentence or two kind of buried 3/4 of the way through the essay. And I said, wow, you need to start with that. That's going to draw them in. There's your hook right there. He revised and came back to the Writing Center 4 or 5 times before he got to the final draft. So I'd encourage you to spend more time than you think you need with your personal statement. As Skip was saying, don't write it the night before you turn in your application. Come to the Writing Center. Really, we can help you. One of the things I talk about with the writers who compose their personal statements is to borrow a little bit from creative writing or from any literature classes that you've taken, that sense of a little bit of drama. You know, he used specific details about that experience in Tanzania to make it come alive and make the reader experience that moment when he was over there, that time when he was over there. And we can help you do that. So we encourage you to use the Writing Center.
Thank you, professors. Blow it up too.
Yeah. Are we giving you the note?
If you have the note cards done, I can take them.
Will you be taking it online? I think it's be just like
Quick question. Include like a cover letter for the person's statement. You have to, I'm not sure if you want your the statement itself.
Yeah, I think statements of purpose generally in testing program for guidelines. But usually I would put it up there for like your name and address, contact information.
You don't need to write.
wanted to write about.
Generally,
Right,
speaking,
right,
applications
right,
don't
right,
need.
right,
a lot
right,
of
right, have to write
detail.
about it because there's.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Send my transcripts to you, my GRE scores are currently, that has the kind of nuts and bolts, logistics stuff. So just check with your program. But I would just put your name and contact information like in the upper left-hand corner, and then center statement of purpose.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Definitely not like what I was thinking, you know.
Person that showed up late decided not to turn in the card.
I don't have anything.
Thank you. So are the numbers at the beginning of the year always a little bit better than they are at the end?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, like,
People,
we've never had this many people in my personal family.
People's energy just kind of lags toward the end. And undergrads, of course, have often fulfilled their extra credit, needs, except for the very desperate. And so that's part of it.
How many of these people do you think are freshmen? Like everybody who didn't raise their hand? when
I
asked
wish
about
I
the
would have asked how they found out about this. If they found out through their departments, because I sent to the department chairs and I